Hello friends and family, and good morning from beautiful Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Today I am so excited. We are going to officially board the Titanic exhibition here at Pigeon Forge. We have a private tour. A huge shout out to Titanic for having us out today. We're going to have a guided tour. They're going to explain everything from the Titanic and White Star Line. This looks absolutely incredible. We did the one on International Drive in Orlando, Florida, but the whole ship here, the facade, everything looks amazing. Before we do head on inside for the tour, I want to do the entire tour of the outside and show you guys around. But before we get started, if you would subscribe and click the bell notification so you're aware of future uploads and live streams, we would greatly appreciate it. Before we do check out the beautiful ship herself, I do want to point out, coming in spring 2024, they have the Titanic frozen custard and chocolate place open up here. It looks like they are hard at work. Like, I hear lots of hammering and different things going on, but seriously, look at this view that we have of Titanic. There says Titanic Museum entrance right in the center. Underneath the Titanic sign, two huge signs that say White Star Line, but this is seriously absolutely massive. This is breathtaking from the road, and of course it's breast cancer month, so they do have a ginormous banner up there. I do want to show you some of the awesome photo ops that they have here outside of the Titanic. Look at this ginormous ship's anchor. It does look like they do have some signage. Let's see what we have going on. This is Titanic's center anchor. Looks like it's an exact replica. Here is the actual picture. That is so cool. So the actual picture of Titanic's original ship anchor that's manufactured, and they do have an exact replica here to scale. This is absolutely massive. And then over here they do have yet another photo op. Let's see what we have doing. It says Titanic, the world's largest museum attraction. Yes, so again, this is the world's largest museum attraction. It's like the captain's hat. I love the flowers that they put right there. That is really, really nice. I do want to head a little bit up this pathway because look at all of the flamingos that they have. I do believe you could purchase these little tags for breast cancer awareness and put them on your flamingo. That's a nice little added touch here they did at the Titanic Museum. Let's get up close and personal though. They got some signage up there painted where it says Titanic. This thing in just scale is just so massive. I do want to give the big reveal because you can see like Titanic is going through the water, and I love how they did that with the ship and this whole little water section that they have. But look at the other side of Titanic. There is a huge iceberg. This is nuts, guys. Absolutely crazy. You can see where the iceberg is touching up against Titanic. I do also want to point out, right outside the gift shop, they do have this very retro pressed penny machine. Look at this though, you can get 5 different ones. You have, let's see, My Heart Will Go On, Titanic life jacket, iceberg right ahead, the front of the ship, and then Titanic with the life preserver. But look at this thing, it's literally the ship's wheel. You can turn it and select whichever coin you want. And they do also have these little pouches to put your Titanic coins in. Okay, as soon as you come in, I got Officer Pittman. This is a crew 3rd officer, age 34, resident Cass Carey, England. We got our boarding pass here for Titanic.
The rest 40 flags for the 100th anniversary, and it honors the 40 different countries and nations that were on board the Titanic. We have 3 flags over here on the side because those 3 countries have a direct link to the ship. The British flag, because Titanic was owned and operated by White Star, which was a British company. The Irish flag is to honor the 14,000 Irishmen it took to build the ship, and then the American flag. Titanic was actually financed by an American, J.P. Morgan spent $7.5 million on the Titanic. In today's money, it's about $125 million. I was actually the first employee hired, so I've been here for 14 years. I was hired a year before we opened. We do have a ship in Branson, Missouri. She's 16 years old and we're 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
We are self-guided, but you're lucky enough to get a little guided tour. And whenever you come through, we give you the name of a real person that was on the Titanic. At the end, you find out their fate. You will also get an audio player that guides you through the ship, and then the audio stops are all throughout the museum. The audio tours are available in English, Spanish, Chinese, and German. You just have to let us know. Right under Titanic deck chair, it tells you who owns the artifact.
It even says the name.
Yeah, so
Wow.
this one's Titanic Historical Society. We have a lot of theirs. There were about 655 deck chairs on the Titanic, and only 7 are known to exist today.
Wow.
This one is from the covered promenade deck. First class passengers would have rented it for $1 a voyage. To put that in perspective, I make $5 a month. So am I going to waste one of my whole dollars to sit down? Probably not.
Right.
I'm going to sit on my bottom or one of the benches. But there are only 7 deck chairs left in the world. This one's valued a little over $100,000.
Wowee.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a lot. Titanic was one of the first ships to have a gymnasium. You can see the gymnasium. The gymnasium steward was good friends with Margaret Brown, the unsinkable Molly Brown.
Okay.
He got her into doing the boxing bag because it slims your sides down and don't have to wear a corset. And she loved that idea so much, she put a boxing bag in her home in Denver.
Oh, wow.
Look at the staircase, guys.
Isn't
Yep,
it
the grand
gorgeous?
staircase.
Now this is what I like to point out because people just think it's a staircase, but it actually goes down for 6 decks.
Oh, wow.
So if you can see it, if you remember going back to the movie, Cal was chasing them around and around. And
Yeah,
around.
yep.
And each set has a cherub until you get to the bottom set, and there's a candelabra. And that lets you know you're at the bottom of first class and near the dining room.
Get out.
We have a picture of the candelabra in the next gallery.
Okay, cool.
I love whenever I'm training, I love to let our new crew members know because people will see that and come back.
Right.
And say, hey, I thought there was a cherub. And then you've got this beautiful setting here. We can go, oh, actually.
Right here.
15 or younger at 16 you're an adult. So this year, next year is all about the children. This is the biggest inset of artifacts that we've had since grand opening. So you will get to see a couple of the children's artifacts. The artifacts that we have of the children are all survivors. Only half of these children would survive.
Oh, wow.
So we have a children's gallery upstairs. It was really hard for our crew to study for this one because it's children.
Right. That makes everything harder.
It's very, very hard. I'm the mom of 2 boys, so anyone that had like just 2 boys, my husband makes me quit reading. And because you're done, I'm
He
thinking,
could tell that his wife is
upset.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to push the buttons for me? So Titanic started her voyage in Southampton, England. That afternoon she went to Cherbourg, and then the next afternoon she went to Queenstown, Ireland. The next morning she went out across the North Atlantic, and it was smooth sailing for 4 days, clear skies, very uneventful, until we heard the now famous words, hit it, iceberg, right ahead. The officers only had 37 seconds to react. It wasn't enough time. We struck the iceberg, and then in 2 hours and 40 minutes, the Titanic was gone. Now, this iceberg field is what we were navigating through, and it's still there because there's always going to be ice from the north breaking off and going south. Now we have the United States Coast Guard Iceberg Patrol to monitor it. Back then, you had to visually see them, telegraph the other ships, and you had 2 options: stop for the night or go south. Captain Smith went south, which normally is fine, but we now know it was a cold spring and the icebergs weren't melting as quickly. So he encountered an iceberg this time. It would take the rescue ship 4 hours to reach us and another 4.5 hours to find everyone. The lifeboat had drifted into a 3-mile radius, and they had to weave in and out of icebergs to find all the lifeboats.
Wow.
Once all the lifeboats were accounted for, the best course of action was to take the survivors to New York City, but that was still another 3 days away. Titanic was carrying 2,208 passengers and crew. Only 712 would survive.
Wow. That's crazy.
The younger generation, I'm like, if they needed 4 copies of the Grand Staircase, it's not like they could Xerox them. Someone had to draw them. So this is the drawing room, the only known picture of the drawing room in Harland and Wolff Shipyard, and all these men are making copies of the blueprints. And I always try to impress on the children especially, imagine how accurate their copies had to be. If you had a bad day of 4 millimeters is just as good as 2 millimeters, but then your copy of the Grand Staircase is going to be off. So their job had to be very, very accurate. In the movie, he was always correcting everything. There is an urban myth attached to him. No one at White Star said the Titanic was unsinkable, and not even God could sink the ship. It was a maritime magazine. It's not like you could Google where the Titanic was going and how much her voyages were. You had to buy magazines. And one of the magazines wasn't selling very well, so they came up with the headline, Unsinkable Titanic, not even God could sink the ship. And throughout the years, people have forgotten about the magazine and think that Thomas said it or one of the workers. Yeah, that might be easier, yeah. And this is the one gentleman I love to put people in their shoes, because everyone loves to hate Bruce Ismay. So he is the owner of White Star. So he is the only major person involved with Titanic that survived. The captain doesn't make it, Thomas Andrews doesn't make it, so everyone blames him. Now he did want Titanic to get to New York ahead of schedule. So he was pushing the captain to go maybe a little faster than what he should have. But the night of the sinking, he was in his pajamas and robes and house slippers, putting women and children into lifeboats. And in the last lifeboat, they give him a choice, either to stay on the Titanic or to get into a lifeboat. Human nature is self-preservation. So I can't be mad at him because I don't know what I would do. At that split second, he points at a crew member, the crew member gets out, and he gets in. And at the bottom of that crew member's tombstone, it says rejected by Bruce Ismay. And he lives a very miserable life for the next 30 years. He's really the only man there is to hate and to point their fingers at. But I can't be upset with him because I don't know what I do. This china is room service or the a la carte restaurant. Titanic was one of the first ships to have an a la carte restaurant. So this is the china you would have received there. And then around the corner is the china from the first class dining.
Oh wow, you can really see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
That looks like a $1 bill on the right, and it's 1 cent. 1 cent. That's it, that was British. This is different.
Yes, exactly.
Red.
There you go.
Oh, it has a car on it. That was a very unique, cars. Joseph LaRoche. Joseph LaRoche is the only black man on the Titanic. He is from Haiti. His uncle is the president of Haiti. Very intelligent. He's an engineer. His family sent him to France to study, and that's where he fell in love with the beautiful Juliet. They got married, started having children, but he realized, in this time in history, it was hard for a black person to find a job. So they decide, after Juliet finds out she's pregnant with number 3, to go to Haiti. Having your uncle as the president might help you find a job. So the sad part of their story is they're scheduled to be on a different ship, but the children couldn't eat with them in the dining room, so they switched to the Titanic. So Joseph lovingly kissed his wife and 2 daughters goodbye. That's what the dads did. Once they got to New York, Juliet didn't really know his family in Haiti, so she just went back to Paris with her family. Gives birth to a little boy, Joseph LaRoche Jr. And this necklace was worn by the youngest, Louise LaRoche, and then we have it blown up so you can see it. And it is going for auction. Wow. Isn't it gorgeous? I mean, you can't really see the detail until you look. Yeah. And you know that was probably him.
Oh, it had to have been, yeah.
So it has to do with a second class passenger, Madeline Bellinger. She's 13 and she's on board with her mom. She is very, very wise for her age, and her parents gave her her first piece of grown-up jewelry, which was a copper bracelet. She was very proud of it because that meant they had a lot of faith in her. Once they get into a lifeboat, she realizes that her bracelet is gone. She's upset for a little bit, but then she realizes it's better to be in a lifeboat without my bracelet than on the Titanic with my bracelet. So she's okay, but in the morning when the sun comes up, they see something shining in the bottom of the lifeboat. Wow. Now her bracelet has been stepped on and crunched. It's broken, she can't wear it. They try to get it fixed in New York. It's not unfixable. Her family sort of encourages her to melt it down, and she decides to keep it broken because it's a reminder that life is short. She survived the Titanic, she could survive anything. The gentleman was on the Minia, and this is some of the grand staircase wood from the second class grand staircase that he recovered. Some people would make like picture frames and stuff from it, but he kept it in its entirety.
That's awesome.
So it has a little bit fancier, so this would have been the captain's table, and this is a side dish. You put it on the side dish.
Oh, I see that.
Very nice.
We do have the car in its entirety because everyone expects to see the car. But in real life, the car was in crates, plural.
Oh, wow.
So William Carter, your dad, found out it was cheaper to have the car put together in New York than to pay import-export taxes. So if the car was taken apart, it wasn't considered a car. I'm not sure how far it was broke down, but it was plural, crates. And then this is how third class would have traveled.
In this case here, they have some flathead screwdrivers brought up from Titanic. Look at this as well, Belfast, Ireland, Dock Pass. It has the person's name still written on it, and it's all vintage tools. Like these were all brought up from Titanic. There's a cutting tool, a carving tool, a hammer back there, then a 17-inch heavy plate.
One of the foremost Titanic experts in the world, and he's known for his photorealistic paintings. So believe it or not, he's only had about 3 art lessons, he told me.
Oh wow.
And this is Titanic's last sunset.
That's
so
crazy.
They're heading off in the sunset, most of them not realizing they'll never see the sunrise next.
Look at that.
Now, if you were a fire stoker, you had to do that over and over and over for 10 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. This is some of the mail from the Titanic.
And he's from Virginia.
Oh, okay. Oscar Scott Woody.
And it was his birthday the night we struck the iceberg.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Junior officers. So we have Captain Smith, does not survive. Officer Wilde did not survive. Officer Murdoch did not survive. Officer Lightoller survives. He's the highest ranking officer to survive. During the Board of Inquiries, the judge, or one of the lawyers, asked him, "When did you leave the Titanic?" He goes, "I didn't leave the Titanic, she left me."
Oh.
Because a wave took him over. So yeah, if you read that, I love him. Junior officers, we have Officer Pittman. He survives. He's in charge of lifeboat number 5. Officer Boxhole is in charge of lifeboat 2, so he survives. Officer Lowe is in charge of lifeboat number 14. He's the one that goes back and helps people in the water. And then Officer Moody does not survive. Good job. Now imagine walking down these corridors on the Titanic. Oh. These are the only pictures of life on board the Titanic. They were taken by Father Brown, who got off the ship in Queenstown, Ireland. So that's how we have them.
Wow.
At first, after the sinking, he went town to town talking about the Titanic and showing the pictures, and White Star asked him to stop because it was keeping the emotions high for for the families. So you put all these pictures in a trunk. Died in 1940s. No, the 19. Yes, and then. Okay, hang on. He died in 1960s, and then these were discovered in 1985, which is when Titanic was discovered.
Wow.
So we believe it was Titanic itching to be discovered.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Almost all the Titanic pictures are outlined in black. This was a photo album we had discovered. Here's the gymnasium I was telling you about.
Oh, get out of town. Yeah, it is.
So you could do the rowing machine.
Right, right. Jeez. And physical educator.
And when we had his photo album here, so we could see the real, his card.
Right.
Yeah. We were all.
Oh, in awe. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's the only picture of the captain off Titanic.
Just happened to peek over the edge. So all of their descendants were here for the 100th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Emilio Portalupe does survive. Sidney Collett is the only man of God, the only man of faith that survives. And his great niece lives in Greenville, Tennessee, which isn't too far from here. Reverend Bateman actually lived in Knoxville, Tennessee in the 1890s. At this time in history, he's in Jacksonville, Florida. He does not survive. The last thing he did was give his sister-in-law his Bible. We do have that Bible. It's in our Branson, Missouri location. So it's the only Bible to survive the sinking was Reverend Bateman. And this is our yuckiest, most unique artifact. So Selena Cook is headed to America. Her husband is not with her, and she has my luck on the world's biggest ship with the world's best food and has a toothache, can't eat a thing. So she does survive. She has her tooth pulled and puts it in her wedding ring box.
Wow.
Puts it in her pocket and says whenever she has a bad day, it reminds her life is short. So like Madeline Mellinger, some people did that. It reminded them, hey, I'm a survivor. So this is our yuckiest, most unique artifact. That is a 111-year-old plaque on there. And all of these items were in her possession. So she had the forethought to shove some things in her pockets and her little purse. Pekingese, 2 Airedales, unknown white dog. We know its name, not its breed. King Charles Spaniel, Chow, a Terrier, and 2 Pomeranians. Only the Pomeranians and the Pekingese would survive, the little pocket dogs that people did put in their pockets. This one is because his owner had him wrapped up in a blanket, and the crew members thought they were saving Daddy and Baby, not Daddy and the Pekingese. So he saved his daddy's life. Which, if you think in third class, they probably never ate on china. Earthenware, or even wooden bowls. So for them to have china was amazing. You have to remember that average person was about 5'6". They didn't have the disease prevention or the growth hormones in their food, so I don't know where you're going to lay down. There's not much room.
No, not at all.
So that's why everything looks little. And the thing in the middle is where they brought you fresh water. And third class paid $35 per berth, B-E-R-T-H, per bed. So if you two could share a bed, they only had to pay $35. So I'd be putting all my kids in a bed. What's in that? That's just where our real bathrooms. Here he is with his wife, the Ausbloods. All the boys in the family do not make it, except for the infant. And this little girl, Lillian, lost her twin brother. And that's the wedding ring off his body. So Quaker Oats was a thing. We actually had one of the board of directors of Quaker Oats on the Titanic, and then there was a honeymoon couple on their way to New York to work at Lipton Tea Factory. So our historian is amazing at finding out these little details. Do you sleep?
Daddy, go in and get it. This video.
Oh, wow. Holy crap. That is crazy.
Now it is the same size and scale. We were able to use the original blueprints. The wood is oak, walnut, and mahogany, and then stained like honey in color. Now, a lot of people will walk in, they go, oh wait, it looked bigger in the movie. It was. Since the average man was only 5'6", and the actors were over 6 foot, James Cameron thought they dwarfed the staircase. So he did make it bigger in the movie. So if you thought that, you get an A+. You are right. My favorite Titanic fact is actually about the floor. What you're standing on is a new invention. It was very expensive, more expensive than granite and marble. We called it the millionaire's flooring, but you know it as linoleum. Linoleum was the thing. It was all handmade. It took about 2 weeks to cure. The average man makes about $80 a week. That might have bought him 3 squares of linoleum.
Oh, wow.
So if you have linoleum in your home, you're Titanic rich.
Oh, Titanic rich.
A really interesting feature on the Titanic. I'll wait till we get in here. A lot of people think this was an onlay, and it was actually one piece of wood, and they carved into the wood. So it's not an onlay. And the angels were from an ancient Greek sundial, and their names are Honor and Glory.
Wow.
Can you imagine carving that by hand?
Absolutely not.
Like I already told you, I'm a little hyper. That would look like to make this from stained glass, but at night, but during the day, it'd be really dingy. The stained glass doesn't show much light, so milk glass allows the light to filter through and soften, but at night they had a problem, so they actually backlit it with electric lights, which was very innovative. So when people would walk in here at 10 and it was lit up, they didn't know where it was coming from. So this is milk glass and wrought iron, and then that chandelier was glass, but all the other chandeliers were Austrian crystal. I don't know why. A parlor suite is 2 bedrooms, your own private bathroom, which was unheard of on a ship, and a parlor. Each one was decorated differently. This is the Regency style, and that is 24 karat gold leafing on all the accents around the top, just like on the grand staircase. And then these are just period dresses. They are not from the Titanic. It's just dresses you would have seen in 1912. That's crazy. The richest man on the ship, and he was married to Madeline Astor. Now, they were quite the scandal because he was 14 and she was, they were quite the scandal because he was 47 and she was 18.
Oh, wow.
And her new stepson was 19.
Oh, man.
On their year-long honeymoon, they did find out they were pregnant, so they're headed back to America. John Jacob Astor starts to get her to a lifeboat and she panics. So he takes her into the gymnasium, cuts a life jacket open to show her it's made of cork and linen and will keep her safe. So finally she agrees to get to a lifeboat. He asks to join her because she is pregnant, and they say no. So he said, do not take your life jacket off till you feel safe. And he gave her his gloves to keep her warm. John Jacob Astor does not survive. His body was recovered. This is the pocket watch he had on him. It is engraved with his initials and his cufflinks.
We're traveling to New York during a sunny day in hopes of avoiding those
Madeline actually refuses to take her life jacket off until they get to New York. Because who would feel safe, even if you are on the ship for 3 days? And we'll get to see her life jacket in the next gallery.
Let's do it. Oh, yeah, I see that. It does look like you're in a long hallway. Check that out. It's actually a mirror and it goes all the way down, it looks like. That is really incredible.
I
Wow.
encourage everyone to follow the lights on the ceiling.
Yeah.
It draws your eyes then back.
It sure does, all the way back, like
And
the
then-
rails.
Do you hear the engines?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you do.
Sort of gives you that feeling of being on the
Yeah,
ship.
goosebumps almost. Yeah, it definitely
Where
does.
some people felt the impact, a lot of people just realized after 5 days and the engines quitting, that woke them up.
Right.
Because you know, if your fan goes off at night, it wakes you up.
Yep,
So
exactly. You don't hear that anymore.
So that's what woke people up. Here's another well-known passenger, Major Butt. Major Butt was on board. He was from Georgia, but he was the confidant of Taft and Roosevelt. He does not survive the sinking. This is Madeline Astor's life jacket. Out of the 3,500 life jackets, I think only 9 exist in the world, and 6 of those are whole. 3 of those we know who wore. Madeline Astor is the biggest name that everyone knows. And it's full of cork and linen.
Oh, you can see it coming out.
Yeah, you can see it on this side really good too. She wore it for 3 days on the rescue ship, and then the doctor that examined her in New York is the one that took it off of her, here's his name, and kept it in his office.
Oh, wow.
And it's one size fits all, so this should fit him and you. It was mailed off the Baltic in 1906.
Oh, wow.
So it says, "My dear daughter, I could not catch a little bunny to send you in my letter, so send you a card with this little bird. I hope Mother and you and Gladys are well. I shall soon be home. Your loving Daddy."
Yeah.
They actually played in a trio or a quintet, and it wasn't till the night of the sinking that all 8 of them got together to help calm the chaos. At one point, the lead musician does release the other musicians to get to safety, but when they walked off, he continued to play, so they each and every one went back and played with him. None of them survived the sinking, and only 3 of their bodies were ever recovered. So we believe it's when their music stopped is when the Titanic legend began.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Isn't that cool? In America and in Britain, so he was done being asked questions about the Titanic. And this is the Board of Inquiries in Britain, and this was letting his wife into the ladies' gallery so that she could listen. So if you ever have a chance, listen to his response to the Board of Inquiries. It's, when did you leave the Titanic? It left me. Can you describe the iceberg? It was ice. We had someone ask us how many people were in the military on the Titanic. So our historian, once again, found out all the passengers and crew that were in the military. So it starts at the Civil War, goes clear to World War II.
Wow.
2 of the children. Very good. You almost, yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yay! And you can sort of see the iceberg out there.
Yeah, you can.
Now, do you like doing, can you see better, can you see better like this or like this? Without the binoculars, can't you? Because it's dark. And then Titanic's 3 football fields long. We only have 1 pair of binoculars. And we've got 28 degrees salt water right here. So when I count to 3, we're just going to dip our hand in flat. We're not going to wiggle it. Dip our hand in flat. Don't scream. And count to 3. Ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3, dip. 1, 2, 3, out. Now this time we're going to wiggle our fingers. Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, dip. Wiggle. Wiggle. Wiggle.
Oh my word, is that cold?
So, which way tripped the worst?
Wiggling. Wiggle.
Because you're wiggling and you're losing body heat. So it hurts worse.
Right.
Now,
Thank
I'll
you.
also ask the boys and girls when they come through, why isn't my water frozen? That's a popular question. The first thing they say is it's moving. And good thought, but that's not it. So then we go, it's ocean water and it's, salt.
Salt
Salt
water.
water doesn't freeze till 0.
Right.
Because when the weatherman says it's going to snow, what do we put on the roads? Salt.
Salt.
So this is our 28 degree salt water.
Wow.
Oh, look at Luke. He's sitting in school in 1912.
That's right.
In jogging pants, not jeans this time.
Or not short pants. Yeah, so this is what a schoolroom looks like.
I don't know what this is.
You don't know what the test is. Or look at this. You don't know what cursive is.
Actually, his school is teaching him cursive.
My boys show you that Edmund Navratil is holding the cat in this picture and holding the ship in that picture.
Oh my word, you're absolutely right.
So whenever I have a student group here, I go, let's think about this. I think he liked that cat. How did I come to that assumption? And one little boy goes, it's bald. I'm like, you're right, it looks like he petted the head a lot. So just to have the picture of him holding each item, especially for the younger generation, it makes them understand what an artifact is. The watch gives out at 2:35. So even the watch doesn't make it in the water very long. So it's like time stops for this person, for everyone. Whether you had a loved one on the Titanic, waiting for someone to come back, just time stopped. An hour before we sank. So see how you do it. See if you can climb it. Not too bad, huh? Okay. This one is 15 minutes before we sank. A little bit harder. And you've got rubber bottom tennis shoes on. We didn't have those back then. You ever been bowling before? Yeah. Imagine walking up those in bowling shoes. And then this one is just 2 minutes before we sank. Yeah, and he's got rubber bottom shoes on too. And I always say, imagine your hands are icy and cold. This is icy and cold, so it's going to be hard to grip. A lot of people think we did not have enough lifeboats, and actually we did. According to English law, we had more than enough. The English law was outdated. It went by how much the ship weighed. So she was over 10,000 tons, so she only needed 16 lifeboats, and we had 20. So we had more than what the law allowed, so we could never be sued for loss of life. After the Titanic went by the number of people. So we had 16 lifeboats this size that held 65 grown men, 4 collapsible, 2 held 35 and 2 held 45. Just dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. And then you send it.
Operator, help is on the way.
That says help is on the way. So how, I mean, I don't understand how people understand that, but you know, people were very good at it. So this is, I teach it as a secret language, and I've actually gotten thank you cards all in Morse code. Thank goodness the teachers have translated it for us. But it's really neat to have their whole school in Morse code, and they get to jive in with the beat, because even though their school may be West High School, it sounds like it's a gajillion letters long.
Right.
Listening to it, this is what they're writing down.
Oh wow. Original messages.
This one came out of Montreal, waiting on the list of survivors. And can you imagine them trying to send the survivors the list? There's 712. Found in it, that's in darkness right now because it's disintegrating. But according to the blouse and everything else, we're pretty sure it's 3rd class.
3rd class.
First class would have had Louis Vuitton, believe it or not. Louis Vuitton started making steamer trunks in 1856, so he had already been around for 60 years. Yeah, who would have thought? Now, one thing that was in there is the handles to a purse. Now, we put a purse on it so people can understand what it is, but just the handles are from the trunk. And this is owned by us. We'll take a submersible and then just tap it.
Okay.
Everyone picks up a different artifact that he found. So this is in 1987. So everyone sees the bow of the ship first.
Yep.
And then it's going to tell you to continue to explore. Let's see. I got a funnel or the deck split. You got anchor chain. You got a window. You got some of the wreckage, and then you explore again. I got the egg plates. I got a leather valise. You got the foremast. You got one of the portholes. You got the propellers.
Oh, look at that.
You did.
Yeah.
And then you explore, and then I think it's going to bring everything to the top.
Oh,
and
wow.
then the footage. Nope, one more artifact. I got a bench, a light, canisters, you got part of the telegraph. And then when you explore again, it's going to come to the top, and the footage you see is actually footage of our owners whenever he did his expedition in 1987.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
And then I'll have all 3 of your artifacts.
Oh, look at that. That's really neat.
So survived is on top and perished is on the bottom. So you are Nellie Snyder. I am happy to say that you survived. You are right here.
First class.
I am.
Emily Ryerson, only your husband does not survive. Here's you, your daughter, and your 13-year-old son, and your 21-year-old daughter.
Wow.
And who did you get to
I
meet?
got Herbert Pittman.
He is one of the officers that survived. He's the second highest officer. See that first little...
Yep. Very cool.
That's funny. So we're all survivors now?
Yes.
That's good.
Those are all the spiritual heroes that were on the Titanic. As I said, Near My God to Thee was played at every Astor's funeral except for John Jacob Astor because Madeline couldn't handle
Couldn't
it.
do it.
Of course, now we know it's post-traumatic stress, but they didn't have a name for it. So he's the only Astor that didn't have that played at his funeral.
I had such a great time today hanging out here at the Titanic Artifact Museum. Our tour guide was absolutely incredible. Knew every detail of Titanic, the passengers, the artifacts, all of the different rooms. It's really crazy to see like all the different pieces that are brought up from Titanic. From the luggage, they had like mailers, all different types of things, glassware, so many cool things. It's very, very different from the one on International Drive in Orlando, like I was saying. This one, just the whole facade, the ship feel, when you put your hands inside the freezing cold water, that was actually really, really freezing. But I had such a great time. This place is truly something else. A huge shout out to everybody here for having us out today. It was so fun. If you'd like to further support the channel, please consider checking out our Patreon page. I'll add a link to that in the description box of this video. But if you like today's video, give it a big thumbs up. And as always, make today awesome.